Hello. So once again, God has woken me from a dead sleep to attempt to make this video. This is my third attempt because the other two were like super long. And God was like, you have to make it shorter. No one's going to want to listen to you ramble on and on forever. And so I kind of made like a little timeline to help me. So hopefully this works. Okay. So on Thursday, I was told ahead of time that God was sending me out and he was going to send me to LA. And he had given me dreams on Wednesday nights about what I was going to expect. And he was like, remember these dreams because it's going to help you. And when I left on Thursday, he paved the way for me. Like he was literally lining everything up so that I could have a smooth trip, basically. He had told me after you go get your paperwork finished at the legal office regarding my marriage and divorce, he was like, I want you to take a bus, and you're going to take the bus all the way to LA, and that's where I'll meet you. And so after I finished with the legal office, I was also told to post my last video. And so I did that at the base recreation center. And then I was looking up Greyhound buses to take the Greyhound bus from San Diego to LA. But when I did that, like this whole little map, like a step-by-step list of what I was supposed to do came up, and it wasn't even anything involving the Greyhound, but it was from San Diego, from where I was sitting. I was supposed to go take a bus in downtown San Diego, which was like 10 minutes away, take a bus to Old Town, San Diego. From Old Town, San Diego, I was going to take a Flix bus. I'd never even heard of a Flix bus, but take this bus all the way to LA. And then at the bottom, it said Santa Monica. And I was going to transfer to Santa Monica. But the thing is that God had told me LA, but I'd had a dream on Wednesday night that I was in Santa Monica, and that was where I met Jesus. We were at like this fancy dinner, and he came up and he said his name was Jesus. And so when I woke up from that dream, God was like, you have to look for Jesus in Santa Monica. And but then he had tricked me because he was like, you're going to LA, and he was like, tell everyone you're going to LA. And I was like, okay. And so the reason for that, I thought, is because of this storm of chaos. It was like a spiritual attack, and God was making me think that I was really being chased by like this spirit or something. And that was why I had to tell people I was going to LA when I was really headed to a specific place, which was Santa Monica. And he had made me think I was really going to meet with Jesus. And I did meet with Jesus, but like it wasn't the way I was expecting. But yeah, he was like, you're going to meet with me in the flesh. You're going to meet with me. And I was like, okay, you better promise that you're going to meet with me. Like, promise. And he's like, I promise. And so, when he had me packing my bags and everything, because I had a backpack because I knew I was going to be staying overnight. He was like, bring your dancing shoes and bring a cute little outfit because we're going to go out. And then he was like, putting all these songs in my head. So I thought we were going to do like karaoke together or something. And what else did he say? He was like, bring your bathing suit. Like all these things. And my dream, it was like a nice place that we were meeting up at. Like it was a fancy dinner place. And so I was expecting, to be meeting up with him in like a nice place. And let's see. Basically, when I got on the bus, the Flix bus, which was like a 3-hour drive. No, was it 3 hours? It seemed pretty short, but it was like a 3-hour drive, I guess. And so, yeah, he was just telling me what to expect. Like, I'm going to meet you in LA, and we're going to travel together to Santa Monica. And then he he was like, but don't tell anybody where you're going. And he was like, there was this woman who was messaging me, and he was like, so confusing me. It was really confusing to me because later on she was like, that was never meant to be an attack on you, a spiritual attack, but the way I was perceiving it was a spiritual attack because it seemed like she was trying to plant doubt in my mind about what I'm doing, like where I'm going to stay. She kept asking me, well, where are you staying? Like, do you even know where you're staying? Blah, 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 blah. And I had a similar spiritual attack like this on Saturday night. And so I was just like, I'm not even going to read her text messages. And then, because I feel like there was an actual storm that was chasing us. There really was a storm that was right behind me. On my bus, I could see, when I looked behind me, it was all black clouds. And then alongside of me, there was like this weird cloud formation along the shoreline when the bus was moving when we were traveling to LA. And it was this, at first it was like this pointy finger like going this direction. And then it turned into an alligator with a gaping mouth. And then it turned into this ram that was stepping on the alligator. And so it was just this weird, bizarre formation. And I know it was God doing it on purpose, probably just to feed my paranoia that I was under a spiritual attack and that there was something chasing me. And then when this woman was asking me where I was going, like trying to figure out exactly where I was staying, like that was when I was like, oh, Jesus, is there something going on? Like, is the enemy like trying to figure out where I'm going and stuff like that? And I know she's a Christian, so like there's no reason for me to think that she specifically is a bad person or anything. But I had been under a spiritual attack from another Christian friend, so I was like so paranoid right now that the enemy was trying to figure out where I'm going and trying to catch up with me or something. And so it was really bad. Anyway, so long story short, when I get to the bus, when the bus lands in LA or stops in LA, Jesus was like, put on your hat. He made me bring this really weird looking hat that I'd never worn before, and it was like oversized. He was like, put on this hat and cover your neck and everything, and your lower face with your scarf. And he made me bring the scarf last minute too. I wasn't planning to bring it. And he was like, cover your face and don't smile at anybody, but just follow the crowd and just follow them where they're going. And so I exit the bus and I'm going with the flow, and we all end up at this Union Station. And from there, I was trying to figure out how to get a train or the metro thing to Santa Monica. And then as I was fiddling with this thing called the Metro Link, this guy comes over and he's like, where are you headed? And I was like, Santa Monica. Do you know like which direction I go in this station to get to Santa Monica? And he was like, yeah, you go this direction. And then I guess he was trying to sell passes. Like there was a Metro Link, but then he was also having his own little passes that he's trying to sell. Like that's how he makes his money, he told me later on but basically he was like, I'll show you how to get there. I'll show you to get to the train. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I smiled at him. And as soon as I smiled at him, like, he was all like, oh, you're so pretty. Your teeth are so pretty. And he basically, like, latched himself to me. And he was directing me. He gave me a pass, so I didn't have to pay for it. But he gave me a pass. And I was following him to the train. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're so sweet. You're like my guardian angel taking me to where I'm supposed to go. But, I'll get to that in a little bit. So I follow him to this train, and we take it 3 stops, and then we transfer. And when we transfer, we go up some stairs, and we get to this other train. And I'm sitting in there, and I'm like sharing him my story, like why I'm on this like mission to find Jesus, and basically like how I ended up in Santa Monica, and he was like. He seemed like he was interested in everything, but we were sitting in the train, and as I was telling him my story, he was like sitting there, and he was like, we should be moving by now. Like, why is this train not moving? And I look over, and he's like, the other train that was going the other direction had like left and come back like 3 times, and we had just been sitting there, and I didn't notice because I was telling him my story. And so when I realized this, I asked God real quick. I was like, God, am I supposed to be on this train? And he was like, no, get up and get out. And so I get up and I leave. And I was like, and the guy was following me. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I wasn't supposed to be on that train. God just told me I wasn't supposed to be there. And then God was like, you're not supposed to go with him. And so I was like, God just told me I'm not supposed to go with you. Like, I know I'm supposed to go to Santa Monica, but I'm not supposed to go with you. And he was like, why? And I was like, I don't know. Like, that's just what God told me right now. And so I was like, I'll go over here and pray for you. So I prayed for him. And as I was praying for him, it was really weird because at one point I was like, and I know you're feeling the touch of God's holy presence right now. And as soon as I said that, he started to shake. Like, his hands started to shake. And then after I was done praying with him, I gave him my card. And then he, like, bounced. But before he bounced, I was like, oh, did you see how fast that train left after I got off of it? Because almost immediately after I got off the train, like, it took off. And so he was like, yeah, I saw that. And so so he left. And it turned out that what God revealed to me later on is that he did not have good intentions. So Jimmy, God told me that because your intentions were impure, you were going to feel the wrath of God. And what was likely going to happen is that he was going to take me to Santa Monica to meet up with some of his friends or something like that, and that they were going to sex traffic me. And yeah, so that was, like, that's the hub for this stuff. Like, LA is the hub for sex trafficking. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was what his intention was. And that was why God was, like, holding the train so that I wouldn't go with him and take another train without him. But what was interesting is that while I was sitting on the train, when the train finally arrived and I was headed to Santa Monica, since God had told me I'm his wife, Santa Monica means, she was like the saint of the married women. So that's why I was like, oh, I'm for sure supposed to head to Santa Monica to meet up with Jesus, who's my husband. So anyway, at one point, God was like, this is your stop. Get off the train. And I knew it wasn't my stop because we were not in Santa Monica. And it was dark outside and everything. And I was like, okay, I'm getting off. So I get off the train. And I was, like, about to leave the station, like the little station. No one was there. Like, it was pretty empty except for some homeless people. And then God was like, I didn't want you. He was like, this isn't your stop. I mean, stop and wait for the next train, because I was just testing to see if you were going to listen to me and obey. And now that I think about it, I think what he wanted me to see was this one particular homeless man. And he was wearing, like, a hospital gown, and he was asking me for some money, and I gave him, like, $2, and I just felt so bad for him because it was so cold. It was so cold, and he was wearing just a hospital gown, and like, basically it was a nightgown. Actually, it was like a woman's outfit. He was wearing a woman's outfit, and he was like this big black dude, and he was older. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, aren't you cold? Why are you... I was trying to talk to him, and he was, like, very out of his mind, talking about how he needed some sugar and stuff like that. Like, that was what... I think sugar is a kind of drug. I don't know. But yeah, I was just, like, heartbroken to see this man. And then he just immediately left after I gave him $2. So anyway, I was waiting for the train again, another, like, 20 minutes, because I guess that station didn't have a train frequent it so often, but it was really cold, and I was glad that I had packed gloves and my scarf and my hat because it was freezing. I was, like, walking back and forth on this platform, like, God, why am I here? Like, what is the point of this pit stop and everything? And I was like, God, it's so cold. And he's like, just a few more minutes. And sure enough, a few minutes pass by and the train comes. And so when I finally get to Santa Monica, he tells me, there was, like, a couple stops before we get to Santa Monica. He brought to my attention this one homeless guy that was, like, a couple of seats in front of me. And he was like, pray for this guy. I want you to pray for him. And I was like, so scared to get up and talk to this person. And I was like arguing with God in my head, like, but I don't know him, and I'm not used to praying for people, and and like I was basically coming up with all these excuses for why I couldn't pray for him. And then all of a sudden we get to the stop, and God was like, you should have prayed for him. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, well, how can I make it right? And he's like, follow him and pray for him. And so I was like following this homeless guy, and he had this huge bag of recycling, and so I was following him, but he was walking so fast, and I was like trying to catch up, but he was walking so fast, and he just disappeared. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? Like, and God was just like, I'm gonna direct your steps. I'm gonna tell you where to go. And literally, he was telling me, go straight, go right, turn left, go straight, like. And so he was telling me, he was walking me through the streets of Santa Monica, and I never felt afraid. I was never scared because I knew he was always with me, and I could hear him, and he was directing my steps. And then from my dream, one of the dreams I'd had was that we were at a dive bar, and I was at one point I look over and there was this guy, and he starts to talk to me, and he tells me that his name was Jesu or something like that, and then we ended up leaving together, and then the scene changed into another dream, but because of that dream where I met this person at a dive bar, I knew that I was supposed to go into a dive bar at some point. And so we did come across a dive bar. Or I say we because it's like God is so present with me that it's like when I talk to him, it's like we're together. Like, I don't know how to explain it. But I'm not demon possessed, okay? So when I say we, and even though it's just me, I'm really talking about me and Jesus, like he's with me. So that's all it means, okay? Anyway, so I go into this dive bar, and Jesus was like, don't talk to anybody. Get a glass of water, drink your water, and then leave. And I was like, okay. And I'm going to definitely listen to him this time, because last time I smiled at somebody, like I almost was sex trafficked. So I go into this bar. I get some water. I go to the very back of the room where no one is, and I drink my water. And I'm like sitting there because I've been walking around for a while. And so I drink my water, and then I get up. I put the water glass back at the table at the front, and then I leave. And then there was I kept walking, and there were certain landmarks that God would point out to me. He'd be like, take notice of this one, take notice of this one. And then we passed by a karaoke bar, and I'm like, oh, maybe we can go karaoke tomorrow or something. And he's like, yeah, maybe. And so just all these little things. Anyway, I end up on Ocean Boulevard, and God had told me before I left that he was going to, every road would lead to him. And so I was looking for him, and we end up at Ocean Boulevard, which is right where the Santa Monica Pier is. And there was, in my dream, I'd seen this very big hotel with lights at the top. And that was where I had been having dinner with Jesus. And so I was looking for this hotel with lights at the top, and I found one. And I don't remember what it was called anymore, but I knew that I was supposed to meet him in this hotel. So I get to this place, and I try to get in, and there's a passcode, and I don't have a passcode. And it turns out it's more like an apartment complex than it was a hotel. And so I was trying to get in, and I was waiting for the perfect opportunity to get into this building. And I can't remember how I exactly got in the first time. I think someone opened the door, and I was able to get in. Anyway, Jesus had told me I'm going to be in room 1111. And so I was like, okay. So I get in, and I think what happened, someone just was going, no, okay. This is kind of significant. That's why I'm thinking about it so hard. The passcode, I was trying to figure out how to get into the building using the passcode, and I was fiddling around with it. And then some people walked by, and then I waved to them, and they opened the door for me. So that was how I got in. And then I was trying to take the elevator, but the elevator needed a passcode too, and I didn't have one. So finally I was like, okay, I'll take the stairs. And so I take the stairs to the 11th floor, 11 flights of stairs. And I was all the whole time I was talking Jesus, this place is kind of grungy looking. It's not even a hotel. Where am I going? And what's the point of this? And I was kind of singing to him the song "I Won't Give Up on Us" by Jason Mraz. I was like singing that to him in my mind. I was like, I won't give up on us, because I had been walking for a long time. It was like I arrived in Santa Monica at like 8 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock, and it was like 11 o'clock. Yeah, it was like 11 o'clock by this point. And so I was climbing up the flights of stairs, and got to the 11th floor, and I was looking for room 1111. And when I got to it, I was knocking on the door, and I was like, it was very awkward because I don't knock on random people's doors, but I was kind of desperate by this point. And I was knocking on this 1111, and nobody was answering, but I could see, like, through the peephole, there was a light. Or maybe, I don't know if it was a light in the building or if it was just a reflection of the hallway light. I don't know, but I was waiting for someone to open, and nobody was opening. And then I was like walking around again, like trying all these different floors. God put into my head the Bible verse, Matthew 7:7, which is, ask and it shall be given to you, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open to you. And so I was like, okay, I'll try flight 7 and room apartment 707. So I try it, and someone did actually was in that building, or was in that room, and she didn't open the door, but she was like, who is it? And I was like, hi, is this the house of Jesus? Like, does Jesus live here? And she was like, no, sorry, wrong address. And it was so awkward too, because it was late at night. And so then I tried room 222, and then I tried 111, and like nobody was answering. And so finally I leave, and I was like, God, where were you? Like, you said that you were going to meet me here. Where are you? And as I leave, I see this homeless guy across the street, and he's picking up some cans and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'll go talk to him. Why not? I have nothing else to do. So I go over and I talk to him, and he was pushing this cart with his stuff inside of it. And he was this older man. He was white, and we were chatting a little bit, talking about how the night was really pretty, and how I was supposed to be finding Jesus, and that was why I was there. And he was like, oh, maybe I'm Jesus. And I kind of just brushed it off because I figured, it's just homeless guy talk. And his name was Michael, and I was like, oh, your name is Michael, which was significant for me because God had been sharing some things to me about the Archangel Michael, which I'll share in another video perhaps. And so, yeah, we were talking, and then he was like, at one point, he was like, do you want to sit down and talk? And I was like, sure. So we were talking for like 15 or 20 minutes maybe, and we were talking about our lives. And then I prayed for him. I prayed over him, and because he told me he had Alzheimer's and dementia. And so I was like praying for healing over him. And I don't even know if I prayed over, I don't know if I prayed specifically for healing over him, but I was just praying for his mind and that it would be healed. I'm not very good at the healing part yet. God told me he's going to work on that with me because I have to build up my confidence and my faith in that area to do actual healing. I've done it before, but like nothing spontaneous, no spontaneous healings. And so anyway, I felt really bad that I felt like I should give him something. So I was looking through my wallet for some money, and I didn't have anything. I just had like a $1 bill, but I knew I had a 20 somewhere, and I couldn't find it. And I was like, I don't know why I can't find my 20. I must have given it to somebody else already. And what was crazy is that I don't usually carry a lot of cash, but when I was headed out that day, I had so much cash in my wallet, like so many ones and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't usually have so much cash. This is crazy. And so I had been giving it to homeless people throughout the day as I was traveling. And I didn't have anything left except a $1 bill, and I felt so bad. And then I found this Buffalo Wild Wings card, and I was like, oh, here's Buffalo Wild Wings card. Maybe there's a place around here you can use it. And then he told me that his name is Michael Burns. His last name is Burns. Which is also, when he told me that, I was like laughing to myself because it's so significant to what God was telling me. And anyway, he told me he's a carpenter, and he makes custom design carpet, like furniture and stuff. And I was like, oh wow, you're a carpenter, okay. And I knew it was a divine appointment because his name was Michael, and Michael Burns specifically. And so, yeah, that I asked later on. I asked God when I met him, and he told me that that was one of the times. And but I didn't recognize it at that time. Anyway, so I kept walking. I was walking around again. God took me all around Santa Monica, the streets of Santa Monica again. And then we passed by at the karaoke bar, and he was like, "Go in and sing to me." And I was like, "Right now? I thought we were gonna do it tomorrow." And he was like, "Nope, I want you to sing to me right now." And so I go in. I stash my backpack because I've been carrying this like 20 pound 25-pound backpack this whole time as I'm walking, and I go in and I stash my backpack in the bathroom because there was this sink that opened up and there was room enough in there for my backpack. And then I go sign up for the karaoke, and I knew I was supposed to sing Annie's song because he had told me that was for me. And I didn't even remember the tune, but I was hoping it would come to me. And anyway, as I was waiting, there were two people that were singing before me, and they were singing songs that were speaking to me. So I knew that God was speaking to me through them. And one of them was She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5. And the other one was Mr. Brightside. I don't remember who sings Mr. Brightside, but that was a song. And it starts out, "I'm coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine," which is what God had told me before, was that he felt caged in by the way people interpret the Bible. And so when it was my turn to sing and I sang the song, like I was in tears by the end of it because it was just like I was really singing to Jesus, and it was like very emotional for me. I don't know why, but I was trying to hide it, but I was like in tears. And then I left. I got my backpack and I left. And I was walking around. And then he was like, "Go to room 1111. I'll open for you this time." And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. So anyway, I'm just going to cut this a little bit shorter because I know it's super long. And if I go into all the details, it's going to be an hour again. But I did end up going back into that building. The same two people who had let me in the first time, they let me in again because they had been at a gym and then they had just finished it. So they were there to open the door for me again to get in. And over and over again, I was knocking on this door and nothing happened. Nobody was opening. And I was so hoping in my heart, like God would open the door for me. And I was asking him, "Jesus, where are you? Why are you not opening for me?" And I knew it was all regarding the Song of Solomon, when the Shulamite was having her troubled night and she was trying to find her beloved in the streets. And it was chapter 5, the Shulamite's troubled evening. And it talks about how she was going throughout the streets trying to find him. And she was looking for her beloved everywhere, but she couldn't find him until finally she passes by the watchman, and then she finds her beloved. So I knew that my night was like basically a replica of this. And so I was asking God, like, what am I supposed to do next? Because I was at the stairwell, and it was like the outdoor portion, and he was like, "Sing to me." And so I was singing to him that song from Jason Mraz again, and then I was like so disappointed and so brokenhearted in my heart, like why I couldn't find Jesus. And I knew that if I left this building that I would not get back in. And I was like, "God, if I leave here, I'm not gonna get back in here." And he was like, "Go look for me at the beach." Oh wait, no. There was a hotel a couple of doors down called the Georgian Hotel, and it was really fancy. And at the first time I left the building, that was where I went to go find him. He was like, "Try the Georgian Hotel." And so I went over there, and I was like, "Did anyone leave a message for Anna? Did Jesus leave a message for Anna?" And they were like, "No, sorry." And I even tried to get into the elevator, and like one of the guys tracked me down and was like, "What are you doing? Like, you can't be in here. Can I help you?" And I was like, "I'm just looking for room 1111." And he was like, "Yeah, we don't go up that high. There's no room 1111 here." And I was like, "Okay, bye." And then so he was like, so this time Jesus was like, "Go look in the Georgian Hotel again. I left a message for you." So I go over there and I ask for a message for Anna, and they're like, "No message for Anna." And I was like, God, what is going on here? You keep telling me that you're doing something, you don't do it. And like, you keep telling me you're going to be somewhere and you're not there. And he was like, I'll be at the beach. Find me at the beach. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll look for you at the beach. And so at that time, he told me to sing to him on the beach, to sing and dance for him. And so I was walking back and forth on the beach, singing quietly to myself. And I was too scared to sing loudly because there are people there still, and like I was feeling awkward. And then like 2 hours go by, and by this point I'm like, I don't even care who hears me, so I'm just gonna sing because I know that's what God wants. So I sat down on a bench and I was like singing whatever song came to my head, and it just so happened to be that song True Colors by Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick. And I was singing this song, and I was like, this was the first time I'm actually singing really loud. And as I'm singing the verses, where is it? I can't remember exact lyrics anymore. It was, show me a smile then, don't be unhappy, can't remember when I last saw you laughing. This world makes you crazy, and you're taking all you can bear. Just call me up, 'cause I will always be there. And as soon as I had said, this world makes you crazy and you're taking all you can bear, this lady in my peripherals appears, and she's acting crazy. And so I knew the song was for her. And so I'm like directing my song towards her, just singing the same song over and over and over again. I sang it for like 15 minutes, and she kept getting a little bit closer, but she would always be a certain distance away. And so I knew that I was supposed to be the one to approach her. And she was like, she would be standing still and talking to herself or whatever, making motions, and then she would be walking a little bit, and then she'd do it again. And so I finally approached her, and as I started to approach her, she would look back, and she would just like kind of go further away, and she ended up under this bridge. And so I approached her under the bridge, and I was trying to talk to her, and I was like, hi, I was singing to you, like that song was meant for you. I don't know your name. My name is Anna. And she was like, my name is Aurora. Which, if you saw my last video, you know that God had put into my head all day on Sunday that song from Sleeping Beauty, Once Upon a Dream, all day. And so when she said her name was Aurora, I knew that she was the one I had been meant to speak to like talk to. And I was like, you know what? Jesus sent me all the way from San Diego just to speak with you, just to talk to you right now. Like, that song was for you, and he sent me here to talk to you. And I was like, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be living under a bridge. God wants more for you. And she was like, who are you? Like, go away. Leave me alone. I don't have any drugs for you. She was like, and why don't you go take an acting class or something like that, because you should be like, I don't know. She was just going on and on, like rambling. She's like, well, you weirdo, like stop singing to me, like all this stuff. She was just very like telling me to go away. And I was so hurt because I knew that I was sent there for her, and I knew I was supposed to talk to her, and she was just retreating from me and brushing me off and saying that I was crazy and that I was a crazy Christian person, and like she didn't want to have anything to do with me. And yeah, it was just really heartbreaking because I knew I was for her. I was there for her. And I just wanted to talk to her and comfort her. And like, I was even offering to take her home with me, to come home to San Diego with me and stay with me, because I didn't want her living under a bridge. And she was like, no, I'm not a lesbian. Like, go away. And I was like, I'm not a lesbian. I'm just trying to help you. And so at one point I was just watching her and crying and bawling my eyes out, wanting to help her. And I couldn't because she didn't want my help. And God, I asked Jesus, I was like, what am I supposed to do? She doesn't want my help. And he was just like, just watch her. Just watch her. And so I was standing there like an hour watching her. And finally it was so cold. Like, it was freezing cold. My hands were numb. And she didn't have much clothes on. I mean, she had pants and a sweatshirt and socks, but that was it. And I just wanted to help her. I just wanted to go close to her and help her, and she wouldn't let me. She kept telling me, "Go away." She was like, "I'm taller than you. I could beat you up," like all this stuff. But she wasn't like trying to be mean. Like she wasn't coming at me or anything like that. But she was just saying all this stuff, and she was even cursing me out at one point. She was like, "Get the F away from here. Like I've told you 7 times already. Like leave me alone." And so I was just really, I really felt like Jesus felt when he's trying to comfort people and he's telling them that they could have a better life and they're not wanting anything to do with him. And finally, I just couldn't take it anymore and I left. But as I was leaving, my heart was breaking. Like I didn't want to leave. And Jesus was in my mind. He was like, just go back there and watch her. And I was like, I can't watch her anymore, God, it's too cold. It's like pointless to watch her. She doesn't want my help. And so I left. And I was walking. He took me around the streets again, over and over and over again. And I would pass by people, like homeless people, and they were on the streets sleeping, or they were wrapped in a sheet on a bench sleeping. And the homeless people who were walking around, like some of them were friendly, some of them would let me talk to them and pray for them, but usually they just ignored me. And it was really heartbreaking how many people were on the streets in this freezing cold weather, like so cold. And I was warm just because I was walking so much. I wasn't tired. I was just walking. And all the bars were closed by this point. It was past 2 o'clock in the morning. It was probably like 3 o'clock or maybe even 4. My phone had died. And finally I walked by. I end up on Ocean Boulevard again. And God was like, go to the Georgian Hotel. And I'm like, I'm not going to the Georgian Hotel, God. Like, I know you didn't leave a message for me. I'm not going to try again. And this whole time I was like, what was the point of this, Jesus? Like, you told me you would meet me here. Where are you? And you promised me you would meet me here. And then I passed by this security guard, and he was watching over the mall or something like that. He was outside, and he was like, what are you doing out here? You should not be walking around the streets like this. Like, it's dangerous. And I was like, I'm not worried. I'm okay. And he's like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, what are you thinking? And I was thinking of the Shulamite, how she meets her beloved after the watchman. So I was like, maybe if I just get past this guy, then I'll find my beloved, but then he was like, come inside. Do you want some water or anything? And I was like, yeah, I could use some water. And so we go in the garage area, the parking garage, and he gives me some water and he gives me some graham crackers. And he's like, just hang out here. Like, you don't have to be out there in the cold walking around. Just hang out here. It's fine. And so I was like, okay, thank you. I'll sit down and I'll just rest a little bit. And we ended up talking, like, basically until everything opened up at 6 o'clock. We were talking the whole time. And, but later on, like when 6 o'clock hit, then that was when McDonald's was open and Subway was open. And he was like, you can go to McDonald's, just hang out there, buy a coffee or something, and you can be warm. And I was like, okay, thank you. And so that's what I did. I went to McDonald's and I was just sitting there for a little bit. And then I was like, I don't want to sit in McDonald's. And I was looking around, and I got there before it had actually opened. And the worst part was I had used the bathroom, and the bathroom was under construction. And there were all these homeless people that were just in McDonald's just hanging out just because it was warm. And I was like, I don't really want to be here. I'm going to look for an actual coffee place. And so I look up on my phone. I had been charging my phone in the garage while I was talking to the security guard. And so my phone was charged again. And so I looked up where an open coffee shop was. And so I walked there. And this whole time I was looking for a bathroom and I couldn't find a bathroom. And then I get to the coffee shop and I order my coffee and I order a croissant and I look for the bathroom. And the bathroom is for employees only. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, I have to sit here, drink my coffee, and I can't use the bathroom? Come on. And it was just really frustrating. And so, but as I was sitting there, God was talking to me, and he was telling me everything, the whole purpose of this trip. He had said it was a retreat, but I misinterpreted what that retreat was. And it was a retreat from him from me. Because before I left, he had told me to take off my wedding ring. And he had told me before, like, you are always to keep your wedding ring on. Never, never, never will you take it off. But he had told me to take it off before I left. And as I was sitting there, I was asking God, like, what happened? I thought that you were going to meet me here. I thought that you had wonderful plans for me. You made all these promises, and you broke them. And he was like, Anna, you made all those promises to me, and you broke them. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was like crying. I couldn't stop crying in this coffee shop. I was crying for like an hour and a half, just sitting there with tears coming down my eye. I couldn't stop. And because he was reminding me everything I'd done, everything I'd said to him that I'd broken, all the promises I made, all the grand promises of how I would obey him and follow him, and how everything I would turn away, and I would say things like, I love you, I think. Like, that was what he said to me when I asked him if he loved me. He was like, I love you, I think. And he would say things like, what else did he say? It was like really hurtful things. And so that was why I kept crying. And it was just devastating for me. So what it meant was this was a whole picture of a divorce from God. And when he said it was a retreat from him from me, to show me all the times he had been knocking on my door and I didn't answer. All the times that he had chased after me and acted a fool for me, saying to me at the top of his lungs, tried to romance me, tried to win my heart, and I wouldn't give it to him. How he tried to comfort me when I was down, and I wouldn't listen to him, and how I rejected him. And it's not just a picture for me; it's a picture for everybody. So, yeah, it was basically what it was like to be Jesus. And then I asked him, when did I meet you? Because he told me I had met him, and he told me, you met me under the bridge. Oh, he was Aurora. Which makes sense because at one point she was like, I've been living under the bridge for a year and a half. And he told me a year and a half was when the tribulation started. So, yeah, I ended up in the coffee shop and I was just crying. And then I was so heartbroken. And I finally was like, I need to find a bathroom. And I was trying to find a bathroom. And that was another thing that God wanted me to witness, was just how difficult it is to be a homeless person on the streets. There were so many of them, and people didn't want to give them anything. And there's no place for them to use the bathroom. Nothing was open. And if it was open, you had to be a customer. And so there was finally this restaurant that I went into, and it said for customers only. And I used it, even though I was like, I'm probably not going to buy anything because I just ate. But I went to go sit down afterwards at the table to look at their menu, and it was all like these super expensive things. Like to buy a milkshake, it was like $8. A milkshake, come on. It was just super ridiculous. Like, no homeless person can ever afford this menu to use a bathroom. You know what I mean? So it was just so heartbreaking. And that reminded me of when I had first arrived in LA in the Union Station. I'd went to use the bathroom. And so that was like the last time I used the bathroom was like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, possibly 8 at night, the night before. And it was already 8 o'clock, so it was like 12 hours later. Probably longer, actually. So I go into this Union Station to use the bathroom, and there was a woman who had soiled herself, and she was a bigger woman, so I couldn't give her any of my clothes, but she was like trying to clean herself up, and it was really sad. Like, I couldn't do anything, and nothing could be done for her, and she was just like wrapped in rags, and smelly, and she had soiled herself. I know, because there's no place for them to use the bathroom. No place at all. And then they're just out on the streets, sleeping in sheets in the cold. And that night, when I had been wandering around, I had seen this young man, and I had asked him, like, what are you doing here? Why are you just sleeping on the streets? How did you end up here? And he was like, I was in prison for spitting on a police officer, like assaulting a police officer. they put me in prison, and when I got out, I couldn't get back on my feet. I tried living with my mom, but it wasn't what I was used to because she was in a ghetto area and we used to have money. And so I left and I ended up on the streets. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, can I pray for you? And I prayed for him and he accepted Jesus. But it was like, this guy was young and he was good looking. He wasn't ugly. Like, it's just devastating for people to be in that situation, you know? So there were so many things I saw that night that were very heartbreaking. And especially for me, I was almost sex trafficked immediately arriving in LA. And just because I smiled at somebody. And then all these homeless people. And just the rejection. The constant rejection from God. There was one more thing I wanted to mention. Before I even headed out to LA, God had told me to reread the story I had written. I'd written a story in like 2017 about meeting Jesus on a bus. And so he was like, go reread that story. And I couldn't find it anywhere. It was somewhere on my laptop. I knew it, but I couldn't find it. But in the process of looking for it, I stumbled across these 2 poems in one of my homework folders. And I was like in shock because I do not remember writing these poems. And just the titles of them was like really weird. So one of them was called Hello, Beautiful, and the other one was called To My Beloved. And that's what he calls me, his beloved. So I'll read the first one. I'll read To My Beloved first. It says, I have loved you all your life. I have watched you grow. I watched you laugh and learn and love. I have been with you every day, every moment. When you started stealing, I cringed. When you lied and cheated and crushed another's dreams, I was the one you crushed, the one you left in tears. Does it make you happy to reject my love? I know it does not, for I see your despair, your worries, and your wanderings. You seek the comfort of the temporary, solace in the arms of those things which could never love you the way I do. You think because of what you have been through, there is no one to turn to but you. That isn't true. There is no one who knows you as I do. You were made for me and no other. If you think I am mad when you turn to another, think of the worst time you were betrayed and see me as I watch you do the same over and over and over again. And yet I still stay by your side, waiting, hoping, willing that you will one day turn to me and say, I love you too, and I will forever stay true to you. Like, what? This is so weird. I was freaked out when I read that. I was so freaked out. And then the second one was Hello, Beautiful. Okay, so this is, I made you to be perfect. I made you to be true to who you would become, but you cannot be all I made you to be unless you trust me. You might think I abandoned you, but never have I done that. In all your pain and sorrow, I have suffered with you. It was you who rejected all the times I tried to comfort you. Even now, you are rejecting me, scoffing, mocking. But if you call on me, I would be there. I would never fail you. All it takes is your undoubting trust. Can you do it? Can you believe that even in your worst moments, I was watching, crying, and mourning too? And can you believe that I love you? You. Even everything you have done will be gone from this life, but you will remain. You are of me, and with me you will be free. All things are possible. Do not fail to believe. So, I don't remember writing these. I really don't. I don't know. And if I, like, these aren't even, why would I title it Hello, Beautiful, or or To My Beloved? Like, that's so strange. So, I don't know. But I was talking to Jesus and I was like, did you write those for me? Like, he was like, yeah. And I was like, but how did you, like, when? I don't understand. So, yeah. And then when I was on the bus, I was asking him, if I was going to meet him on the bus, and he was like, maybe. So I was all looking for him on all the buses I was on, like hoping he would get on, but he didn't. And then there was, at one point he was like, don't worry, you're going to have a lot of time to read that story. Because he knew it was on my laptop, and I did find it. And it was actually really good. I don't remember. I mean, I know I wrote it, but I was like shocked when I reread it because it was like pretty good. So maybe I'll post it somewhere at some point. But I'll definitely post these 2 poems on my blog, and I'll link to them once it's up. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. Anyway, I'll keep this short.